Good morning. Good morning, all. Welcome. I welcome you all to the webinar today, and thank you for joining. We really and highly appreciate your time. The Learning Space, in partnership with Virtualize Africa, VMOG, presents digital transformation in the era of virtualization and cloud computing. Again, this is a very fantastic topic that we're talking about today, and our presenters will be doing we'll be shedding some light on this topic, and we would have panelist discussion at the end of during the webinar session. Thank you again very much for joining. I'll be doing some introductions at this point. Firstly, my name is Kabiru Mohamed Aliu. I'm the founder for Transform Africa. Digital transformation in the era of virtualization and cloud computing is really relevant, especially in this era where we are of COVID-19 and where businesses are looking at transforming radically, especially their businesses. Because what they are looking for is efficient processes to be able to increase their revenue and also to be able to contribute to the society in which they serve. As you can all see what is happening in the world, we all have to come together to fight the pandemic. And organizations and individuals are doing the same. We thank you for all your contributions. I would now be introducing again the topic of today. The topic of today is digital transformation in the era of virtualization and cloud computing. And we have partnered with Virtualize Africa, VNSync, and VMOG. I would start by introducing the learning space. The learning space is an unconventional learning space that is there to accelerate simulated trainings and certifications. The mission is very simple: for Africa to be the best in ICT innovation and knowledge transfer. I think this is powerful. Also, I would like to introduce Virtualize Africa. Virtualize Africa also have similar and bigger mission, which is to build capacity in Africa with focus on the virtualization and cloud computing skills. We find this to be fantastic and as a way to contribute to the African ecosystem. Now introducing VMOG, which is VMware User Group. And these are groups that have been formed by individuals that have passion for virtualization. And I think this is very noble. And their interest really is to ensure that the deployment of virtual infrastructure is at its best. I would continue on to introduce VNSync. VNSync is a company that is based in London and specializes in digital marketing, communications, and ICT trainings. As you can see, all the companies that have been introduced so far have very common and shared passion and interests, and I think this is commendable. I would now begin to introduce the panelists and presenters. And at this stage, it's very important for me to acknowledge that the presenters and panelists have taken their time to be with us today. And I think this is very, very commendable. And we thank you all, presenters and panelists. So I'll start by introducing the presenters. I will introduce Mr. Kamaldeen Kahinde. He is the MD and community organizer of Quara and Mall Hub, respectively. He is also a Virtualize Africa ambassador for his contribution to virtualization in Africa, specifically in Nigeria. He is also one of the only V-experts in Nigeria currently. And again, this goes to show the passion for bringing cloud computing and virtualization to the continent. I would go ahead to introduce Mr. Dotun Adeyemi. He is the solution architect for Zeta Web Nigeria. With over 15 years of ICT experience, he has managed and deployed various technologies from VMware to Cisco to Microsoft and also Red Hat. In my mind, I find this to be fantastic and it's something that we are very proud of. Now, introducing the panelists. I will start by introducing Mr. Deji Akomolafe. He is a staff solution architect at VMware based out of the United States. I've never seen an individual with so much passion for capacity building and for knowledge transfer. He does it so flawlessly. Welcome, Mr. Deji. I would also now be introducing Rachel Ona Musi. She's the CEO of VNSync, the company based in London. She has numerous experience and has contributed to virtualize Africa in one way or the other, cutting across several countries in Africa. She's also specialized in marketing, communication, and ICT trainings. I would like at this juncture to also introduce Oyin Damola Olalekan. She's the project director for virtual formatics and has over 2 years experience in the ICT industry and numerous technical certifications that covers associate, professional, and aiming for her expert level certification, covering various technologies and security products. At this juncture, I would like to hand over to the presenter, Mr. Kamaldeen Kainde. But before I do so, I would like to just ask that the attendees start posting their questions in the Q&A. We will get to as many questions as possible, and we hope that you have a fantastic experience on this webinar today. It's very, very important we repeat the slogan, in learning, you will teach, and in teaching, you would learn. And we're all looking forward to hearing from Mr. Kamaldeen Kainde. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kabir. Thank you for your effort in demystifying the topic for today. It's a great privilege for me to be in the among of this morning. I will be sharing my view on how virtualization is accelerating digital transformation. Before I go deep into how virtualization is accelerating digital transformation, I would like to talk briefly about the impact on the Nigeria economy, because there is no how we will talk about digital transformation without referring to our own demographic. Probably, we all know that digital transformation is one of the key things in transforming our ecosystem today. Everybody, every individual, every businesses, they are trying so hard to move in that direction. But firstly, before I go deep, generally, we need to know that technology means a lot of difference to so many people. When we are talking about digital transformation, sometimes people talk about how it's meant for them in terms of socialization, like relating with people, relating with individuals, and maybe some people talk in that line as latest smartphones, how they can relate with apps, how they can efficiently use some gadgets. Why some people think about digital transformation in line with social media action, something like being addicted to Twitter or Instagram or some social media place, or sometimes talking about the Big Brother fame. Some people talk about the easiest way of explaining all these concepts. Let's say, for instance, how you watch how you talk about Big Brother gist on Facebook, the Twitter influencers, and the likes. But the major thing is that we need to know that transformation is drastically affecting or impacting on Nigerian economy. From the concept of the people, how they relate with the digital experience, and from the concept of how they relate with businesses, their mode of doing businesses. It is not a news anymore that the mode of doing business days is now different to how we are doing it in the modern age. We also need to know that there are new frontiers in businesses, such as the banking system, the telecommunication, the commerce, the payments gateway, the system transformation, the finance, and many more. So we need to know that there are many businesses that is going majorly digitally, being transformed digitally nowadays, and they are really gaining from this transformation. We also need to know that the commerce we are used to is not just ordinary commerce anymore. It is now something we call an e-commerce. Let's say, for instance, we have a company like Jumia, we have Kunga. They are really leveraging on digital transformation. This is not just about them, it's about them creating opportunities for other establishments to leverage on. And also, when we are talking about the impact in Nigeria, we can't shed the effort of the government. The government too, they are not lacking behind. They are trying to mate with this shift. So the government is trying to tag along when we say when we think about how they are putting the business, their strategy online nowadays. Something like their business name registration is now done online. The registration of CAC and some FIRS. So definitely, Nigeria, they are trying their best to meet up with digital transformation, but we can see from that angle at the same time that it goes beyond you coming online, chatting, or leveraging on, doing registration online. We need to talk about the main thing, which is one of the reasons why this topic is very important, how virtualization is accelerating digital transformation. Next. So majorly, I will be talking about the virtualization, how it's affecting, accelerating digital transformation. A deep dive can give us a walkthrough that digital transformation has transformed how IT, the development team, and business managers, how they work together hands in hands. We need to also know that digital transformation has paved a lot of way to dev teams and business to work together as a team. When we are talking about this, we also need to know that there is no other choice as a balance among business goals, automation, security, and business continuity. The agile software-defined infrastructure is key to getting all this and staying ahead of competition. We must know that critically, business transformation, when we are talking about digital transformation, we are not just referring to the business, we are also referring to the technology involved. And when we are talking about the technology, there is no how we can leave virtualization out of this game. We must also know that virtualization is one of the key aspects towards digital virtualization, towards digital transformation. And I believe Nigeria currently they are not looking in that line per se, because we are still struggling with data analysis and cloud computing infrastructure due to some major impacts. Next. The technology behind this transformation is all about, though we talk about business all the time, but it takes technology to make it happen. Something like integrated clouds, more modern data centers, digital workspaces, and enhanced digital center security are all pieces of puzzle. And it takes a number of different products and services to be, when we are trying to implement a cohesive way to put them all together. We need to know that the technology behind this digital transformation is something simple, but we can always refer it to as virtualization, because virtualization helps to transform data. But in Nigeria, we are still lacking behind. We are not moving towards in that direction yet. But I believe my colleagues presenter, we talked deeply about how this thing is drastically affecting us and the impact in Nigeria at present. Next. But if there is one technology that can help partners move themselves and their customers more smoothly along the digital transformation path, we can always refer to virtualization. So virtualization, majorly, it helps in creating a software based where or a virtual representation of something, virtual application, server storage, and networks. So it is the single most effective way to reduce IT expenses. So, and also to efficiently for, it is also efficient for all sizes of business. Virtualization is very, very, very important when we are talking about digital transformation. Next slide. Specifically, virtualization helps customers to accelerate digital transformation by integrating the public and private clouds, which includes software definition of hardware based on networking. Next. Laying a foundation for auto, it helps to lay a good foundation for increased productivity through rich mobile experiences, empowering the digital workspace by delivering the it's very seamless and it allows more flexibility for you to manage your resources in your while trying to set up a digital workspace. Next. It also helps in improving security and increases security flexibility, and also ensure that there is faster speed to market, also known as tighter security markets. Next. So in conclusion, virtualization, digital transformation supports virtualization supports the acceleration of digital transformation because of its seamless ability to manipulate and use things, then ability to give rooms to maximum flexibility in terms of reducing cost and some other things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal, for that. Thanks for the presentation and the discussion around just the importance of virtualization and what it does to individuals, organizations, and the society at large. And the fact that you have mentioned how seamless it is especially when you have also developed some competencies in you being able to manage the infrastructure. So at this juncture, I would be handing over now to Mr. Dotun to go through a presentation for us, just in continuation of Mr. Kamal's presentation. So Mr. Dotun, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thanks, Kamal, for that wonderful presentation. So digital transformation in the era of virtualization and cloud computing, I think Mohammed has already introduced me. Moving on to the next slide. What is digital transformation? Digital transformation involves making fast and profound change in business activities, processes, competencies, and models to strategically leverage digital technologies and their wide-reaching impacts. Also, digital transformation is the use of new and fast and frequently changing digital technology to solve problems. From the two definitions, you can see the word new. So it means that digital transformation is an ever-evolving process. It is a journey, not a destination. Also, moving to the next slide. Why do businesses digitally transform? So I would like to use an analogy here where we have two companies, Company A and Company B. Company A and Company B both have contact centers, which their contact agents have to resume to the contact center facility to receive calls. And suddenly they find themselves in the pandemic era where they're orders to sit at home. Now, a Company A implemented enterprise mobility. What enterprise mobility actually means that you can actually allow your employees to stay at home and work productively as if they were actually in the office. So going by that, Company A can seamlessly move their business model from working in the office to working at home. While Company B, which has the rigid and traditional way of doing business, where they have to actually resume at their contact center facility, will be cut off from their customer. And then we know no business can survive without its customers. So you see, Company A had a competitive advantage by leveraging enterprise mobility. Now, when we talk about digital transformation encompasses a lot of interrelated technologies like cloud infrastructure, which involves virtualization, like Kamal talked about, customer service engagements. Also, one of the advantages is also for the financial advantage. By deploying digital transformation, companies actually save costs because, for example, I've deployed enterprise mobility. I don't need as much office space or pay for a big office complex because most of my workers can actually work from home. Also, those staff can actually work more efficiently because they don't have to commute to work, stay hours and hours in traffic. And such companies usually have faster time to market because they've employed or deployed cloud infrastructure that allows them to roll out infrastructure and products easily. Now, moving on to the next slide. The big differences between a company that has digitally transformed and one that has not. I gave an analogy of Company A and Company B. We see by Company A deploying digital transformation, they've been able to be agile. So any business or unforeseen circumstances, the company can easily adapt to the changing environment. So the government has said, we have a lockdown. Company B will be in trouble, trying to find technologies or ways to actually mitigate or how the call center agents will be able to work from home. Well, Company A is already ready. They can actually, in the twinkle of an eye, actually change their business model. So, like we said, digital transformation has to be an open model because it has a lot of interrelated technologies. So you can actually adopt new technologies and bolt it on to your solutions you have, while the traditional way of doing things is usually proprietary. Also, when we do digital transformation, we make use of a lot of smart applications. So smart applications basically use current trend as against historical analysis, like your traditional BI tools do. So instead of looking at, okay, in the past 7 days, this customer bought this, well, it uses predictive analysis that, okay, these customers are actually buying this kind of product now, so we need to invest in this. Also, by deploying digital transformation, you also have a personalized user experience for your customers. You have faster time to market because your software products are released are always easy to release because you deliver them in a continuous and iterative model. Also, softwares are also delivered modularly. That means they are API driven and application centric. Next slide, please. So one of the main providers of cloud infrastructure, which a lot of companies use for their digital transformation, is VMware. So VMware is a publicly traded company founded in 1998. 100% of the Fortune 500 companies use VMware. So for the 100% of Fortune 500 companies to use VMware, you know that something has to be unique about VMware and their products. We have 75,000 partners worldwide, which I work for one of the partners, the principal partners for Nigeria. And VMware has been constantly a leader in the Forest and IDC consistently. So next slide, please. So digital transformation related products, what VMware has in their portfolio is the software-defined data center. So software-defined data center is a foundation which businesses use to make their digital transformation journey easy. So what is software-defined? So, in every data center, we have servers, we have network, and we have storage. So what VMware has done was to ensure you virtualize your compute, virtualize your networking, and virtualize your storage. So when you virtualize, by objectifying your network or your servers, you can easily move them and make them agile. Also, another product is digital workspace. So digital workspace allows companies to securely and deliver apps on any device, be it company-owned or privately owned, without compromising security, with technologies like VMware Verify, and this platform is driven by AirWatch. Okay, when companies also deploy software-defined data centers, they usually are called private cloud infrastructure. That means it is owned by the company. So there are instances where the company might need to migrate the workloads to a public cloud. So by using VMware's cloud solution, you can easily extend your workload from the on-premise to the public cloud infrastructure like Amazon, Azure, and the likes of them. So moving on to the next slide. So this is a VMware digital transformation vision. First step for most organizations is to modernize the data center. Modernizing a data center involves deploying a software-defined data center. You've abstracted your storage, abstracted your network, and abstracted your compute. Now, for you to be agile, there are situations where the workloads might need to be on the public cloud. So, and you need a single plane of management for both the public and the private. So VMware gives you that extensibility where you have a single plane of management for both the public and the private cloud. Now, a lot of inhibiting factors when people don't want to move to the private cloud is the consistency in networking and security of their application and workloads. So using VMware's NXXT, you can actually have a consistent network and security policy across both your private and public cloud. So you fill in the gap, there's no security leakage or breakage. Now, the last part is that when you deploy all solutions, they need to be consumed. So by consuming it, you can securely deploy them using a digital workspace. Digital workspace, like I said, allows you to securely deliver application to user devices, be it mobile, be it tabs, be it laptops, any device. So moving on to the next slide. So this is a evolution of how VMware has evolved with its partner cloud ecosystem. So VMware first deployed VMware Cloud on AWS, which was a software-defined data center on a bare metal server. Also, they integrated that service by doing an on-premise service like VMware on Dell EMC, which is actually a first on-premise self-service device where you actually deploy a software-defined data center at a customer location, and it's fully managed by VMware. Now they also moved to the VMware cloud infrastructure, where you have a unified console between the private cloud and the public cloud. So you don't have to have two consoles in managing your public and your private cloud. Things like audit logging, infrastructure network monitoring are also integrated, where you have a centralized logging console. So solutions like desktop as a service, workload, self-service, and kubernetes management can also be integrated into the VMware cloud platform. So by having a hybrid cloud platform, you have workloads that sometimes are best fit for the private data center, and sometimes you have workloads that are best fit for the public cloud infrastructure. So VMware gives you that kind of leverage to actually move workloads seamlessly from private to the public cloud infrastructure. Next slide, please. So I want to run through some of the VMware products that VMware has. This is not an exhaustive list, but just some. So VMware Tanzu, we all know about containers and Kubernetes. So VMware has a product that actually helps in managing containers. So containers now in VMware are first-class citizens. That means you manage both VMs and containers on your vSphere, your vCenter infrastructure. So VMware vSphere is the underlying infrastructure, like your VMware EXSI that you install, that is like your hypervisor you get. So next product is the VMware vSAN, which is a solution that allows you to do virtualized storage. It allows you to virtualize to abstract common direct attached storage to a SAN. So it's a virtualization solution for your storage. Also, NXX also allows you to virtualize your networking. So it gives you consistency in security policies throughout your network, both on-premise and on the cloud. The next solution is a VMware Horizon, which is a virtual desktop infrastructure solution, which allows you to deploy virtual desktops on your VMware infrastructure. So we can also have it on-premise or do it as a service on the public cloud. Next solution is the SD-WAN by VeloCloud. So SD-WAN is a kind of technology that allows you to automatically create and set up tunnels in real time without manually configuring or manually configuring static tunnels. This is powered by VeloCloud, and we're seeing a lot of traction in the industry going the SD-WAN route. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we see digital transformation is a very important tool for any organization to use. We in Nigeria are slowly getting there. We have challenges which some of the questions we are going to be talking about we address. Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Just to recap a little bit, you have really spoken about how important virtualization is to organization, especially when you look at hybrid cloud type scenarios, where you are also moving your workload from private to public, And with VMware being good, it enables you as well to burst into AWS, Google, and then your Azure. So that gives you much flexibility in terms of what you do and how you make your decision within your business. Also, you spoke about security, and you spoke about how important virtualization is in terms of accelerating other applications like machine learning, artificial intelligence, and some of the applications that are coming up at rapid speed, allowing for developers or allowing for people with ideas to just focus on their ideas while the underlying technology supports them. Thank you very much for that. Highly appreciated. I'll be moving on now to the panelist discussion, and just to queue up that discussion, I would like to just continue to encourage the guys that have joined on the call, the attendees, to post their questions that they have on the Q&A so that we can take it when we get to that section. So just to kick off the panelist discussion, I would be calling on Mr. Deji to answer this question. What are the components of virtualization, and how does this transform business profitability? Thank you. Okay. When Mr. Deji comes on back on, we would go back to this question. I don't know if any of the panelist member can just assist with this question. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Deji, can hear you.
Okay. All right. I apologize, Mr. Liu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody on this call, wherever you're calling from. My name is Deji Akomolafe. I'm a staff solutions architect for VMware. Let's make sure we first baseline now. What is virtualization? Virtualization is the aggregation of compute resources and other components of modern IT network infrastructure, and the distribution of those resources, or the partitioning of those resources to multiple workloads. So what are the components? At the baseline, you have the hypervisor, which abstracts the physical hardware, turns it into consumable software that can then be partitioned and distributed into multiple operating system instances or multiple consumable resources. You have the hypervisor, VMware vSphere, for example, ESXi is one. There are multiple types of hypervisor, but we just leave it at that. And virtualization doesn't just abstract the physical resources like the CPU, memory, and storage. It's transcended that baseline of 10 years ago. Virtualization also now virtualizes security, as some of the speakers have mentioned today. And what this gives you is the flexibility and the dynamism in either scaling up or scaling down your infrastructure requirement. So the elasticity, the ability to respond to changing environment, changing business environment on demand without much delay is what makes virtualization very compelling, especially in this era of COVID. We are looking at requests or demands that are very different from what they used to be 6 months ago, 12 months ago, before COVID emerged. Enterprises that don't have the ability to dynamically respond to these changes in business dynamics suffer considerably, especially considering now it's very difficult to order physical hardware, which is how traditional businesses are done before the emergence and superintendence of virtualization. If you were locked into physical existence and you haven't adopted or you hadn't adopted virtualization before this period, it becomes much more difficult for you now to scale up your infrastructure if the demand emerges. Take a bank for an example. If everything they've been doing until now has been on physical resources, now that most people don't go to the branches, now that banking is done mostly remotely, these banks need to be able to upscale their infrastructure to support this remote demand. Would they be calling Dell, HP, or any of the physical hardware vendor? How long will it take, given the interruption in logistics and shipping? If they had adopted virtualization earlier, it makes it much easier for them to respond to this increase and changes in business operations. So these are some of the ways adoption of virtualization transform business profitability. It helps customers, it helps enterprises use the hardware they have more efficiently and more fully. There is hardly any wastage when these resources are abstracted and aggregated and used judiciously. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light on that question. I'm here. If you have any more questions, I'll field it.
Thank you very much, Deji, for that explanation. I'm just trying to relate it to everyday business so that we understand the real application of the concept. Thanks for the reminder. So I will be moving on to the next panelist to respond to this question, which is Onyi Damola. How does cloud computing empower digital transformation? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed, for that question. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Let me start by saying that cloud computing is the foundation of digital transformation because it effectively offers unlimited and dynamic IT resources that helps to facilitate digital transformation and rapid business change. So having said that, cloud computing empowers digital transformation in so many ways, but I'll be focusing on 4 different applications today, which includes the collaboration part, the rapid prototyping, the flexibility and cost effectiveness, and also the security, which is very, very important considering the pandemic. So let me start by collaboration. You see, with cloud computing, you can have access to better collaboration because digital transformation requires that enterprises adopt the culture of innovation and creativity. So cloud computing makes it possible to share files, to share data from anywhere, from any device, and at any point in time. So considering this pandemic, it creates an atmosphere for collaboration and teamwork from any part of the world and at every point in time. It's worthy to know that users' level of authority can be controlled, so you are ensured of optimal delegation at every point in time. Moving on, I'd like to talk about the rapid prototyping. Enterprises need to continuously innovate, test, implement, and repeat processes for digital transformation to actually work. Cloud provides the platform that we need without having to set up complex infrastructure on site, so which makes it easier for enterprises to experiment throughout their transformation phase. So they can implement, they can check if it was working with the cloud platform. So you don't need to have a big IT infrastructure on-prem. You can always do that with the cloud. Also, I like about the flexibility and cost effectiveness that cloud computing gives to digital transformation. It saves enterprises the hassle of having to invest in various IT resources by providing them the required infrastructure, the required platform, and resources at just a gap. So all these do not only save enterprises capital expenditure because they don't have to buy and manage IT infrastructure again. It also helps them to scale as much as they want. Mr. Komolafe talked about scalability. So with cloud computing, you can scale up, you can scale down as whatever way you want to do. The last point I'd like to talk about is the security. You see, storing databases on-prem has a lot of risk attached to them. The risks are not limited to critical information loss due to disaster. You can have brute force attack, you can have data breaches and all of that. So with cloud hosting, this creation of multiple data backup. So you have your data backup and data recovery at every point in time. You also show of compliance to security standard and policy. For example, the ISO 27000 standard, you're sure that, okay, this cloud platform that I'm hosting on has security in place. Also, you have data availability and you have identity and access management at every point in time. So if as a business owner or as an enterprise you are planning digital transformation, cloud is actually the logical and optimal solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Onidamola, for that and for the explanation on the question. Thank you. So I'll be moving on to the next question, and this goes to Mr. Kamal. What is the biggest obstacle digital transformation programs run into? So in essence, what are the challenges or concerns when organizations are trying to transform? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kabir. Like Onye rightly said, that digital transformations allows scalability, though it allows scalability and different aspects. There are a lot of advantages to it, but as we all know, there is a pushback. We need to also know that there is various challenges attached to it. One of these challenges is employer pushback. Many employees are so familiar with these changes when it comes to digital transformation and are still finding it a bit difficult to catch up with it. So I think that is also related to the cultural aspect, whereby they are so adapted with the traditional mode, and for them to move directly to the digital transformation, it entails some other process. So employers' pushback has been one of the challenges while trying to adopt digital transformation. Another challenge is lack of expertise to lead digitalization's initiatives. So since this is many people are not so familiar with the technicality, especially when it comes to our region here. According to research has already shown us that though it's a very good thing to leverage on digital transformation, but another thing is for us to look at the expertise, those people who are the front line to carry out this major shift. So also we have organizational shift. Both small businesses and large businesses encounter these challenges in terms of organizational structure. So organizational structures has been one of the most obstacle when it comes to digital transformation. Another thing is lack of overall digital future strategy. Many organizations find it difficult to project what will happen to their system in the future. And the last obstacle I can suggest based on research is limited budget. When it comes to our own area here in Nigeria, many people do not have that budget to withstand all the technical know-how in terms of getting infrastructure, setting up the cloud system, and the like. So many organizations do not have enough budget for them to transform from the traditional mode to the digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal. I think you talked around very critical points, especially points around budget when considering digital transformation. You also talked about skills as well, and also buy-in of the company, and in terms of also just their appetite to be able to make that transition. And you also related it to the context of Nigeria, and I believe that we would also have similar challenges across some African countries. So I'll be moving on now to the next question. that I would like to pose to Rachel. So why does digital transformation matter? I think this is a very crucial question. Why does it matter?
Good morning, good afternoon, good day to everyone. Excellent summations thus far from the other panelists and the speakers at the beginning, very insightful content. Basically, digital transformation matters because without it, organizations, companies are dead in the water. It's no longer a nice to have. It's no longer a cherry on the top of a business cake. It is the cake. It is the substance of what we are trying to do. Companies must adopt transformation in order to stay competitive and relevant. This is basically because the heart of digital transformation is the drive to improve customer experience. So if you're in the business of creating solutions, which I think all businesses are, and you're trying to work out what your customer needs, then you have to migrate to a digital platform. You have to harness all of the emerging technologies that are available in order to do this successfully. People want valuable solutions to their problems, and they want these solutions rapidly. So the experience of customers is at the heart of digital. We have to be able to communicate with our customers. We have to be able to give them what they want when they want it. We have to be flexible and iterate at every step to ensure that we are actually meeting their needs. If we don't do that, we fall behind, and we don't have the time or the competitive edge to be able to do that manually the way that we previously used to in the older conventional methods. So the primary focus of digital transformation is to use cutting edge technology to improve the customer experience. So, and Africa in general, Nigeria in particular, must be at the forefront of digital transformation in order to compete favorably as the world becomes a global village. So what might have been fine previously 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even in 2019, will not be accepted by foreign partners and investors, or even Nigerians who have experienced the speed at which digital transformation can meet and satisfy needs. So any reluctance by the government or by companies or by the private sector or the public sector to meet with the fevered pace at which businesses are now running globally will leave Nigeria going the way of the dodo. So by going digital, companies can bring more than just their workforce together, more than just their offerings to the table. They can bring their entire architecture. They can make sure that they meet the needs of the customer, which is why we wake up and go to work every day. So this is why it's important. It's crucial to the way we do business today.
Thank you very much for that, Rachel. I think you talked around the point quite well. We do not have a choice because customers are now used to competitive services, especially the fact that services are now global. You can receive services from an international platform. Businesses as well needs to focus more on innovation and bringing their ideas on the table, as quickly as possible to remain competitive. So thank you very much for that. So I'll be moving now to the next question, which will be fielded by Mr. Dotun. And this question is, what are the key factors affecting the adoption of digital transformation in Nigeria and Africa at large? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. So some of the points have already been mentioned by Kamal and the other panelists. I just want to add some other. One of the factors is reliable broadband internet. So for you to actually digitally transform, your customers have to actually consume those resources over the cloud. And without a very reliable and good internet backbone, you will not be able to use those resources. Another major factor is also power. Most people nowadays, the power situation in Nigeria, and if you can't have power to power your equipment or your devices, you can't actually digitally transform. Another factor is also work culture, which Kamal talked about. If the employee push back, not everybody is always liking to adopt new technologies at the rate at which the company might want. Also, is also cost or budget, which Kamal also talked about. The cost of deploying such solutions sometimes can be prohibitive for most organizations. So basically, to sum it up, the cost of doing digital transformation in Nigeria compared to other regions is quite high. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dotun, for that. And I think these are real challenges that you are mentioning, regularly. Even most people that are working from home now are facing similar challenges with power, with a bit of infrastructure, even with data connectivity, which is still an issue. It's getting better, but still an issue. And I think you've touched on very, very salient point around the challenges, that we face here in Nigeria and in some parts of Africa. From time to time, I get opportunity to have conference calls, with my colleagues or friends across Africa, and we regularly battle with, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So I think those are challenges, and I think those are also opportunities as well for us in the ecosystem. So I'll be moving on now to the next question, and this will be fielded by Mr. Deji. What are the key steps in planning and leading digital transformation in an organization? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. For an organization, the realization that things have changed and things are not going back to what they used to be is the first step towards embracing digital transformation. You don't go to the doctor unless you agree that you need medical assistance. Organizations and enterprises in Nigeria need to realize that the business climate, the competitive edge, the profitability, their whole rationale for existence depend on their ability to be able to meet today's demands, today's customers' expectations, and that in the global economy, they are no longer as isolated or insulated as they used to be. If they don't provide the services, others will. And when others do, then they become irrelevant. So they embrace the realization that something has to change is the first step. The second step in doing that is actually doing something about it. Knowing that you have a headache is not sufficient. You actually have to take affirmative action to address the root cause of the headache and take steps to make it go away by taking prescriptive actions. The prescriptive actions that you can take today are mostly defined. There is nothing that you need to invent from the beginning. Most of the solutions that you need have been mentioned on this discussion today, and it's in existence. If a unique need arises for you or for your organization to be able to transform your business outlook and business practice, that can also be fashioned out. Most of what you need are already out there. Virtualization, cloud computing been in existence for a very long time. On the x86 platform, they've been in existence for about 20 years plus. It's not new. It's no longer black magic, and it's no longer something that you have to go fashion out or think through. The solutions are out there. Key steps: number one, realize that business operations have changed globally, and you are not isolated anymore. It's a global village now. You need to move with the time. Your customers expect to be able to work with you in an optimized, dynamic, and operationally efficient way. And the solutions that you need to meet these needs are in existence. Now, it is upon you, it's incumbent upon you as an enterprise to now look inward, reassess your current state, look at your future state, make the necessary gap analysis, and bring in the resources and the expertise, as has been mentioned by both Kamal and Dotun on this call, the expertise required to help you bridge the gap. It's not a proposition of whether or not, it's a proposition of when. If you don't, you get sidelined. If you do, you remain competitive and you remain in business. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deji. And I think some of the key points that you have mentioned that I want to remind the attendees on is you need to stay relevant, especially if you are in business. And to stay relevant, you have to go digital transformation, or you have to transform your business digitally. And I think that's a key point. And you also talked about if you don't transition, then other people would provide the services that people are in need of. And that would also give you a challenge in terms of competitiveness. So thank you very much for that. I'm now going to be moving on to the next question, and this one is going to be posed at Rachel. What does digital transformation really mean for today's business leaders looking at Nigeria and Africa?
Thank you for that question. Digital transformation is a valid source, possibly at this time the only source for social and economic development in Nigeria. And it's an opportunity for every Nigerian citizen and business to achieve more. The long-term benefits of adopting technologies such as cloud computing and artificial intelligence drives inclusivity in terms of connectivity, skills, and jobs. Just about every industry benefits from digital transformation, from agriculture to education to fintech to health. We can't do without it. I believe Mr. Komolafe just mentioned that if you don't incorporate these measures, these technologies, these skills, if you don't use Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and incorporate it into how you do business, someone else will. And the people you want to do business with will do business with the people who are digitally agile, who are moving with the times, who are responding to disruptions. So when business leaders are thinking about what longevity in business means for them, they need to make sure that they are incorporating digital transformation in everything that they do. It must be at the forefront of the discussion. It must be a way of doing business. And it means creating an enabling atmosphere for this. So I've just seen a question in the Q&A that I'd like to speak on briefly. It means creating a culture, an enabling atmosphere, not just nodding at the idea or the notion of digital transformation. We have to eschew bureaucracy because it makes us look busy or makes us look as if we're working, whereas businesses are not moving ahead, income isn't growing, GDP isn't growing. We need to create a culture where we can actually not just innovate, but actually use these technologies. We are having graduates coming out of universities from computer engineering or IT engineering who've never touched a computer, who are doing this theoretically. So when you're talking about the kind of culture that is required for digital transformation, it means we have to let go of the cramming culture, the theory culture, and we have to start applying innovation innovation in every single business industry. It means we have to ensure that we are listening to customers and we are iterating accordingly. We don't provide business solutions that we think the customer wants. We create business solutions that meet a need, that solve a problem, that meet a challenge, that put us on a par with the rest of the world. That culture needs to be, the business leaders need to look at an enabling culture that makes this kind of innovation, this kind of open source working, partnerships, technology-minded individuals possible, so that they welcome innovation as opposed to see it as a kind of a disruption. Because guess what? The disruption is happening. It's not going away. COVID might have accelerated it, but we were always going to end up here. We were going to end up in a place where digital transformation and working digitally and making use of emerging technologies will be the only way to do business. So this culture involves bringing everybody around the table, making sure that productivity is measured as opposed to the previous indices. You must be at work at 9 o'clock. You must be at your desk at 8 o'clock. You have to bring it. We have to create a culture where we measure people based on performance as opposed to the old tired indices, because they're just not going to work in the new phase of life that we're going into. I hope this has answered the question, but business leaders need to think about digital, moving ahead digitally and innovation as opposed to any of the old ways of doing business, because they are dead and they are gone and they're not coming back. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Rachel. I think you're spot on, and I believe that the listeners have gotten one or two things, even myself as well. I've also picked up one or two things as well. So thank you very much. So I'll be moving on to the last question before we go into the Q&A discussion. On this question, please, Oyindamola, can you take this question? What skills are needed to support virtualization? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. The list of skills is actually inexhaustible, but I'll just mention a few. The first one is to have good understanding of one or more critical public cloud providers. By this I mean knowledge of AWS, Azure, OpenStack, and the likes of them. You also need to have little expertise on IT architecture, software development, and operations, because all of this assists with the automation process of virtualization. Also, having skills that span across general networking with emphasis on wireless technology, data center facility, cloud platform, and infrastructure. Another skill that comes in handy is strong scripting skills such as Python, PowerShell, and all of that. So it's also important to have knowledge of advanced security and firewall. We all know that it's important to, security is very, very important to us. So it's important to have knowledge of advanced security and firewall. The last thing I would like to talk about is also good knowledge of storage attached network, which includes the fiber and iSCSI. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kamal, I don't know if you would want to add some more context here, some more to this question, especially from the perspective as well of young people as well. I'm sure that the guys that are on the call that are, a bit looking at going into this field, what should they watch out for from your experience? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kabir. For young people trying to go into this aspect, I think one of the things, the first thing they need is resources. They need to leverage on getting themselves resources they can use in order to increase their knowledge. So I think one of the best place to learn about this VMware IT Academy. I think they offer courses on this aspect you are talking about, which is cloud computing and virtualization. So I think young kids need to invest in getting themselves, acquiring the relevant knowledge that can easily make them fit, since the industry lack expertise. And I think the best way to curb that for people to learn relevant skills that can make them suitable for job or suitable for providing solution to different challenges related to digital transformation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal, for just expanding on what Oyedamola covered, especially from the perspective. I know that you have a lot of experience in dealing in working with young people, and I think this is also very important for the sustainability of our continent, Africa, where young people are constantly passionate about learning, and they have that culture of just learning and challenging themselves, because truly, 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 amazing things can be created once you have a learning culture. You have a culture where you just want to know what is happening, and you want to practice, and you want to play around with certain resources like you mentioned. So I'll be moving on now to Q&A, right? Please, for the guys on the call, please feel free to post your questions on the Q&A section of the webinar. We would answer as many questions as we can with the time that we have permitted. So from that perspective, I'll go into the Q&A discussion. So basically, I would start shortly with the Q&A questions. And Mr. Deji, can you help us with this one? And if Rachel can also support the question, how would digital transformation affect jobs? Thank you.
I'll take that question if that's okay. Got some background there. Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, if you could repeat that, please. There was some noise in the background and I couldn't.
Okay, so the question from one of the attendees is, how will digital transformation affect jobs? Thank you.
Okay, so this is a very common question, because many people think that actually digital transformation will take away jobs and we're going to have machines doing the work that humans are supposed to do and will lead to large-scale unemployment. This is actually not the case. What digital transformation will do is that it will transform the workplace so that humans are employed to carry out the higher thinking jobs. The digital transformation will remove the minutiae, the drudgery, the day-to-day work, and humans will be left to carry out the creative thinking, the kind of innovative thinking that leads to real change and real transformation. You don't have to get a hoe and put a hoe in the ground and dig up the ground and put a seed and then cover the seed back up. You can actually be the person who invents a machine that actually does that. You could be the person who then goes forward to add other components to this machine, to say, okay, this machine should be able to sense when it's dry, when it's what the water density is like in the soil, what are the nutrients are missing, what should we also be adding to the soil while we're doing the planting. If we're talking about agri-tech, you shouldn't be the person who takes a check. And so if you're talking about financial or banking or the financial industry, for example, oh, you look at the check, does the signature match the signature on the account? Oh, then we then take the check and walk 3 doors down to the person in the clearing and forwarding room, and then you spend an hour processing one check. You can employ machinery to do that, and then you input machine learning into your organization or into whatever hardware that you're using to be able to spot a check that has been altered, that has been defaced, that has been changed in any way. And then you can go forward and then you can clear or forward checks and make payments within seconds, as opposed to taking 3 to 5 working days. Digital transformation does not hamper jobs. It elevates humans to the place where they were always meant to be, utilizing and leveraging their intellects, their innovation, our ability to think beyond just the most basic tasks into really, really fine handling and elaborate understanding of problems and actually solving those problems, and then leveraging machine learning or technology or hardware to actually meet those problems. It doesn't hamper, it actually elaborates and opens a whole new world to us. I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rachel, for that. Yes, it does. And just to add just a few words to that, we need to go virtualization, like Rachel has mentioned, to expand or to open our eyes to more opportunities in actual sense at a more larger scale, because once a solution or an idea is brought to life as a result of virtualization, then more jobs are actually created, more skills are acquired and learned, and that diversification then occurs. I mean, this is really a topic that we can go on and on. I know that most of the panelists members are looking forward to taking more questions, but because of the time that we have, we'll just move on to another question. So this question goes to Mr. Dotu. What are the basic steps Africa can take towards digitalization from grassroots? So this is looking at it from grassroots perspective.
Okay, like Kamal is currently doing a lot of grassroots programs, like what Quarabuild is doing, that will actually help most to bridge the knowledge gap in the digital transformation journey of Nigeria. Also, availability, government also needs to help by also providing platforms that will assist the grassroots to learn and relearn new skills. Because in the digital transformation era, it's not just about some skills are actually going obsolete, and the grassroots needs to learn those new skills that will make them relevant in the new digital age.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Dotu. Another question goes to Mr. Kamal. Does digital transformation apply to only technology businesses? And I think this question is coming from this perspective of small business, and this one selling body care products. And the question is that how can digital transformation help my business? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Kabir. The answer to that question is, firstly, does digital transformation affect only technologies? Okay, the answer is no. It's not just about technologies. It also affects small businesses. And I think from the perspective where I talk during my presentation is we all have a major concern about digital transformation. Many people have different perspectives when it comes to what digital transformation really is. It's not just about using modern tools to make your work efficient or to make your industry more efficient, or using machine to do some work. Digital transformation is not majorly about that. So when we are talking about how digital transformation affects small business, I think the first thing we need to know is that you need to figure out the strategy your business leverage on before you invest in anything. And also, why do you need that? You need to leverage on insiders, like in terms of consulting people that, okay, what can I do to improve my businesses? So you need to now define or design a customer experience that can address that issue. For instance, as a body care person, how you can do that is sometimes if you are selling your product to people, you can try to create a kind of a app, like an e-commerce website, that instead of you during this pandemic, there is limits the effect of body contact, social distancing and all, that is not that is reducing the, restricting movement and the likes. So you can create an e-commerce website where people can just order for your product instead of going or door to door or going to your place of your shop or any place. So it's better in that way. You can leverage on app creation, or you just get yourself a simple website. So that can affect it, and it's not just about body care alone, but for small businesses. So digital transformation too can also be regarded in that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal, for that. Just bringing the perspective that it applies to the entire ecosystem, not necessarily only large enterprises. Virtualization, cloud computing applies to small, medium enterprises, even individuals, because as individuals, you also create and you also contribute to the society. So thank you very much, all the panelists, for assisting us with all the questions and just giving us some different perspective to how we can view virtualization. As they say, there is a theory of learning and forgetting, Professor Ebbinghaus, and what it just says is that, we hear a lot of information and we need to go and internalize it for it to stick in our minds. It needs to stick in our minds. It needs to stick in our hearts. As Rachel passionately talked about the job question, you could see that we don't have a choice than to digitally transform. At the same token as well, once we do, we need to be optimistic, very, very optimistic that a lot of good can come out of it. Thank you very much. So I'll be moving on now to the closing question, and this question I would go to Rachel. Has 2020 been a game changer in adopting digital transformation? If so, how? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and I want to thank everyone once again for taking part. This has been a most instructive session. I really enjoyed all of the input from Dotun, Deji, Kamal, and everyone that's been here. Thank you so much. This has been really instructive. Has 2020 been a game changer in adopting digital transformation? 100%, but only for those who were willing to make that change and to pivot towards success. What has come across loud and clear due to the lockdown and the inability to access bricks and mortar businesses, or bricks and mortar offices, I should say, is that a symbiotic relationship amongst digital business models, the customer experience, efficiency, and agility is the only way that businesses will, number one, stay afloat, and number two, thrive. It's only when they harness these related objectives as a common purpose do organizations and companies see themselves unlocking the full benefits of their transformation agenda. It also means that if a business puts the transformation agenda first, as opposed to knee-jerk bolt-ons, then they are in a better position to actually withstand disruptions to the business model. If they are ready to say, as a business, as a whole, based on what we do. So the lady, or the listener, I should say, I don't know if it was a lady, asking about a digitalization or the digital transformation in the beauty industry. What do I sell? Who do I sell it to? How can I automate this? What components of my business can I digitalize? Once you start thinking about that, as opposed to running from pillar to post and saying, oh, they've closed offices, okay, so I need to do this, oh, then I also need to do this, and then once you stop having a reactive response towards the digital transformation and more of a proactive response, you find that you're in the position of winning when it comes to staying open and staying in business, regardless of what happens next. This time last year, we couldn't foresee a situation where we couldn't go to work or go to a bricks and mortar office. the 2020, the COVID-19 and its subsequent lockdown has shown us that anything can happen at any time. Are you ready for any sort of disruption? In order to be ready, I'm going to go back to something that Dotun said, which is that in order to to stay afloat, you're going to need digital transformation. You're going to need virtualization. You're going to need employing and harnessing emerging technologies for competitive and financial advantage, for operational efficiency, and a faster time to market as a result of cloud infrastructure. You're going to need to be agile. You're going to need to respond quickly to disruption, to change, to you're going to need to be flexible in the way that you do business. You're going to need to be open. You can't stay rigid to the old ways of doing business or even stay rigid to the hierarchies within your organization. You have to contemplate very seriously open source software, partnerships, innovation, being fluid in the way that you do business, not just within your organization, but with all other companies as well. You're going to need to leverage personalized experience as a result of data collation. So when you're using your data, what does the data tell you? And are you iterating in order to meet the knowledge gaps that the data is presenting to you? If your data is telling you that 27% of your customer base need this feature or this service, are you working towards implementing it? Finally, I think the most important thing that has come out of this is that the digital transformation is a journey. It's a continuous iterative delivery. It's not an end in itself, as Dr. mentioned, but it is an ongoing journey. What worked perfectly well for 2020 might not work for 2021, but the principles remain the same. We cannot stay stuck in the way that we do business. We cannot stay stuck within our hierarchies. We need to be fluid. We need to be flexible. We need to think about grassroots. We need to think about doing business at every level of our business, from small business to medium business to agri-tech to fintech to larger business to global industries and enterprise. So if you say, has it been a game changer? Absolutely, but only in that it accelerated where the world was going. Digital transformation is the future, and the future is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel, for that. Thank you. I think that gives us a very good closing to this webinar. I would like to, at this juncture, thank everyone for coming and for attending. Specifically, I would like to thank Virtualize Africa. I would also like to thank VMOG, VNSync, and specifically, I would like to thank Rachel, right, for coming on. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I would like to thank Oyedamola, Mr. Deji Akomolafe, Dotun Adeyemi. Thank you all for coming. We are all doing our part, you know, to make a difference. We would continue to bring you more series because we feel that we should continue to have this discussion in the various forms that they come in response to what is happening currently and how we can learn from historical trends. Thank you very much all for your time. We truly, truly appreciate your time. Thank you and cheers.